So working with type in Photoshop, it's not ideal, right? Illustrator, InDesign, all of those programs are really oriented toward dealing with a lot of type. Photoshop, you can bring in some text, you can put some type up there, that is fine. But if you find yourself trying to typeset a book, right, not the thing to do with. But let's take a look at what you need to do to work with type, because we're going to use that for project 3. First thing I'm going to do, I made a new document that is 11 inches wide, 8.5 inches high, and 300 pixels per inch. Regular old white background. And I'm going to go now to Window and pull up my character and paragraph palettes. So there they are. They were hiding right there. I'm just going to undock them. All of this, by the way, is coming out of this lovely handout, Handout 13, which you should check out. There we go. Okay, so I've got my character and paragraph palettes, and I'm going to go ahead and just throw some boring old type on here. I'm going to get the type tool, which is T, letter T on the keyboard. It's right down there. It's a big letter T. And I'm going to drag a box out here like this. And first thing happens is there's some weird black thing there. What's that about? Well, if I come up here to the top, right, my contextual menu that goes along with my type tool, I have a couple of things. I have the name of the font. Okay, it's a face. Everybody calls it a font. Typographers, like, chill. The name of the font. I have the sort of style of type that is. I have the size, 9 point. I have anti-aliasing, right? So that is sort of how soft the edges are, or whether it is just like black, boom, white, which will, when you zoom in, look a little bit more jaggy. I have the alignment, left, right, center. You know that from like Microsoft Word. And then lo and behold, I have the color. So let's click that color. I want it to be black. I'm going to go down to my RGB values and put 0 for all of them and hit OK. So now we can see, if I go and make my font a little bit bigger, right, I have it all selected, Command A, and I can come up here and just drag on that double T next to the font. I could also click here and select one, or I could just go ahead and type it in there. 36 point. Points are what we measure fonts in, or font size in. What is a point? I don't know. Who cares? So this is just placeholder text. It's called lorem ipsum. It's basically like sort of quasi-fake Latin. And it's in there so that if you're doing sort of a layout, right, and you're like, okay, I want some text to be taking up this place, but I don't have the text yet, right? I haven't written it, or the person who's writing it hasn't given it to me. So you can draw that box, it gives you this placeholder text, and it gives you a sense of like, okay, what does that look like if I were to fill it with text? So I'm going to go ahead and say that this lorem ipsum is fine. So I'm just going to click on it. I could also, if I started typing, that would replace the lorem ipsum. The text box, right, if I resize it, doesn't make the text itself bigger or smaller. What it does is it makes a bigger or smaller space that the text can occupy, right? So now we have all of this text. If I make it really small, not all of the text fits. You'll see a little sort of X down there at the bottom. So there we go. There's our text. Let's go ahead and run through what these character palette things do. To do that, I'm going to select my text. And up here we have the font, right? That's pretty straightforward. You can go through and choose different fonts. I'm going to go with, let's choose a goofy one first. Okay, Hucklebuck JF. And then to the right of that, it says regular. And when I click on that, regular is the only option that I have. If I go back and choose a different typeface, Adobe Caslon Pro, now when I go over here to regular, click on that, I have italic, semi-bold, semi-bold italic, bold, bold italic, yada, yada, yada. So depending on which face you choose, there will be a bunch of different sort of styles, for lack of a better word. of that text. So that's going to depend on which font, right? And it's important to note the difference between that and down here at the bottom there are some things that I call fake bold and fake italic. So if we look at this font right now and I click on the fake italic, right, everything is just a little bit slanted. If instead of doing fake italic I go up here and go to actual italic, you can see that the actual typeface totally changes, right? It looks very, very, very different. In fact, let's set two sentences. Okay, copy that. All right, so here we have this random sentence. One of them, the top one, is in legitimate italic. This one I'm going to put in regular, but click that fake italic thing. And you can see how totally different sort of vibes these two sentences are. So when you have a choice, you probably want to choose the actual real italic. It's been designed by a type designer. If you don't have that, but you want it to look italic, you can still go in and choose fake italic, fake bold, whatever. All right, so let's get back to all of that regular. So next thing on there is size, right? We're familiar with that. We can make it bigger or smaller. These are going to be how big 36 point is on your page. Depends on, you know, sort of the resolution of your document. There are certain sizes where it gets too small to read, certain sizes where it gets like too big to fit. If I set this to 1200 point font, it appears to not have any text there because even just like one word is too big to fit into that box at that size. So if you type something and you can't see it, if you know you're not typing with your color set to white, make sure that your size is not off the hook. Next thing that is on there, I'm going to go ahead and put some more lorem ipsum in there. Go to the type menu, paste lorem ipsum. Okay. So next thing that's on here after size is leading. This is named after the little pieces of lead they used to put between the lines of type when they were doing it on a press. We can leave it set to auto. If you, again, drag that up or down, it will increase the spaces between the lines or decrease the spaces between the lines. Auto is a good idea. Next up is kerning right here. Right now it's set to metric, so let's set that to optical. Kerning is the amount of space between two letter forms. Now, what does that mean? I go down here and type a V and an A, right? A V is shaped like this, right? That sort of like angle of the V, whatever. The A can like nestle right up under it. So that is kerning, sort of pulling those letter forms together, pushing them apart, where we have two different letter shapes that are compatible, right? So a V and an A compared to an N and an M, right? I can't push the N and the M any closer than they already are because they have these big straight ends to them. So setting it to optical seems like a good idea. Next to that is tracking. That is just sort of like the overall amount of space between the letters, irrespective of what shape those letters are. So if I adjust the tracking, it just adds a little bit more space between everything, whether it's a V and an A or an N and an M. This one, that T, that's scaling the height, scaling the width. And those are really the only ones that we need to worry about. There's, again, down here, like underline, strike through, fake bold, fake italic. Below that, let's look at the paragraph controls. So paragraph controls are, we have here the alignment, left align, which is what we have here, which means that all of our text runs into the left side, and then on the right side, it just sort of ends wherever it is. So we have a ragged edge on the right side and a straight edge on the left side. Same thing in the center, right? Ragged on both sides, and then right align where it's straight on the right side, ragged on the left side. Then next are ones that say justification. Now these ones, right? It's filling the whole thing, right? The text is justified. It hits a smooth edge on the right, hits a smooth on the left, hits a smooth edge on the right. And it does that by increasing the space between the words. So that makes it a lot neater looking. It makes it in some ways a lot more legible, a lot prettier. It is more important when you have a bunch of dense text. If I had very, very large text, okay, well that is obviously too large and means nothing. Right, that looks super dumb to have it spread out to hit both sides because there's just not enough, isn't enough place to like put little spaces to sort of shim it out to hit both sides, and so it looks ridiculous. So we want to go back to something that is a little bit more normal. And here, right, they put a little bit of space between each one. You don't really notice it, but it looks overall a lot neater. And then the difference between these three is that last sort of hanging bit at the end of the paragraph. It can be aligned left, aligned center, aligned right, or you can justify that as well, right? Most of the time you don't want to do it because, again, it's a short little thing. It doesn't go most of the way across the line. And so if you do force it to be justified, you get these big gaps in between. So let's put this back over there. That looks pretty good. So those are the most important things. You can play around with these other things, indenting, ligatures, that kind of stuff. But those are the main controls for our type. Now, next thing that we want to look at, type is just like those shapes, is a vector. That's why we can scale it up and down, and it doesn't look terribly weird. It is existing in this raster-based environment, so if I zoom way in on it, you'll see that it does like anti-alias a little bit at the edges. Excuse me, and that's basically just so that it looks smoother on your screen as you're looking at it. You can go in and select that text, and right up here where it says crisp, you can control how much anti-aliasing there is. If we say none, right, that doesn't look good. So we probably don't want that. Let's go back to whatever it was before. Crisp, that seems more than adequate. Now, because it is a vector-based thing, we can't do some stuff to it, right? We can't do like, we can scale it up and down. That's great, just like the stars. But we can't say take our eraser. Let me hit this little checkbox up here to get out of that text editing. I could also, if I click far enough away that my cursor goes back to a regular arrow, I can just click it. So if I grab the eraser E on the keyboard and try to erase this text, it says I can't. It has to be rasterized first. So rasterizing it is taking something that is a shape, right, which is what text is or what the shape layers were, and it's converting it into pixels. Once we do that, right, we can no longer scale it up and down with impunity, and in the case of text, we can no longer edit it, change the font, make it bold, change the justification alignment, any of that stuff. So you probably don't want to do this, right? There are very few times when this is the right thing to do, but let's try it out so you know how it works. So I've got my text layer right there. You know it's a text layer because there's that little T there. I can double click on that and that will make it active and I can start editing it. But if I go there and then I go up to type and say rasterize type layer, that's a way to convert it from vector-based typography into pixel-based raster-based stuff. So I can do that. Now if I grab my eraser, now I've gone in and erased that text. So that is the magic of rasterizing it. You can do that also, let's see, back up here. If I click on that and then control click on that text layer, I can also rasterize that here, right, if I have like 12 text layers, I can rasterize one but not the others. All of that good stuff. All right, so first exercise we're going to do, if you go and open, there is a file called demo, which I very unprofessionally have, not sure what the fuck I did. That's frustrating. There we go. Okay. Boom. There it is. There's a file called demo. I'm going to edit out that part where I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And let's go ahead and open that up. You'll notice the demo is spelled not so correctly. So first thing to do is go ahead and click on it and erase the extraneous M. So good job. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and select it and rasterize that text layer, type layer, sorry. And then let's grab your eraser tool. I'm going to make it a little bit softer. And let's just double check our layers here. Yeah. And let's go in and erase some holes out of demo. Okay, so that's that. Go ahead and do that. Once you've got it looking appropriately swish cheese-ish, just go ahead, make a screenshot, include your layer palette so I can see that demo is no longer a text layer. Obviously, let's rename that from white background to yellow background. Who made these files? Throw it on the Padlet, and we'll move on to the next thing.